Hi, my name is Ken Davidian, and welcome to Organization Theory in Space. This is season 2, during which every week I release a video on a different chapter of the Oxford Handbook of Organizational Change and Innovation, second edition, edited by Marshall Scott Poole and Andy Van de Ven. This video covers chapter 15 of the handbook, entitled Organizational Routines and Organizational Change. Routines are defined as repetitive, recognizable patterns of interdependent action carried out by multiple actors. Organizational routines can be problematic when it comes to change because they remain the same when we want them to change or change when we want them to stay the same. In this chapter, the authors discuss current theory on how routines change and how they stay the same, and the implications of these dynamic processes for organizational change. The chapter also introduces the concept of patterning, a new perspective on change and stability in routines, as the process through which action patterns accumulate and change over time, reinforcing existing routine paths or generating new ones. Let's get started. The history and evolution of research on organizational routines shows a progression from a static understanding to a more process-oriented understanding. First, evolutionary economists proposed a theory of economic change where routines act as genetic material for organizations, as a counterpoint to excessively rational microeconomic theories of firms. Next, organizational capabilities were characterized as bundled routines, which can be arranged differently to improve capabilities, and may include meta-routines for adaptation or rely on executive expertise with dynamic capabilities explaining organizational-level phenomenon like competitive advantage. These two firm-level theories address industry structure and competitive dynamics, but often overlook the internal dynamics of routines. More recently, routine-level theories, like routine dynamics, examine the formation and change both within and between routines over time, shifting focus from individual routines to larger structures like clusters and ecologies of routines. Many assumptions are included in routine dynamics theory, including the long list shown here. Routines are assumed to unfold over time, in certain places, by certain actors. They create the world they inhabit. The actions in routines are interdependent, and the importance of routines depend on other routines. There's normal variation within a routine. They're carried out by multiple actors and not individuals. And by the way, this is what separates routines from individual habits. Routines are carried out by humans and non-humans. Effort is required to perform routines consistently. And finally, routines are capable of internally driven change. That is, they can evolve. Empirical research on routine dynamics starts with an action as the unit of observation and progresses toward patterns of action as the unit of analysis. These patterns, called pattern invariety, can be represented by narrative networks. Narrative networks summarize routine performances. Snapshot networks are an action pattern at a single point in time and have been used for comparing routines and measuring their complexity. Finally, narrative networks provide a way to test for stability or change based on observable actions. The classic views of routine focus on their tendency towards stability, also referred to as inertia or lock-in. The routine dynamics view, on the other hand, tends to focus on how routines change to maintain organizational stability or to encourage organizational change. These changes can be described using the 4 motors of change that are the primary subject of this handbook. However, some researchers are proposing a 5th motor of change called patterning. Patterning is defined as the effortful performance of the sequence of actions that forms a routine. Within narrative network diagrams, patterning describes the mechanisms that drive the addition or removal of actions and the sequential relationships between actions, which are respectively the nodes and the edges in the diagram. There are strengths and weaknesses to both the narrative networks model and the patterning motor concept. The major strength of the narrative network model is that it captures sequential relations between actions, but does not fully capture the situated and embodied aspect of routines. It does not fully capture temporality aspects other than sequence, and it is basically descriptive and does not include feedback loops or other mechanisms driving dynamics. Since patterning motor of change is so new, its strengths are primarily theoretical at this point, but it offers a process model of routines as actions, not things. It explains both stability and change of routines. It suggests a natural link from micro-level processes to macro-level patterns too. However, its limitation is that it does not account for temporal aspects of routine formation and change. Well, that's it for chapter 15 of the handbook. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. And if you did, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell so you'll be made aware every time a new video is released. Thanks. OT in Space was produced by IRL, which stands for Impossible Research LLC. IRL conducts process research on the topics of innovation and industry emergence within the space sector context. IRL also offers services of organization theory consulting, research consulting, and STEAM outreach. This video is intended for educational purposes only.